Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. How are you guys doing today? My channel simply is called Discerning What is True. I'm going to be reading from a particular book I've been reading through for the last probably couple weeks called Kabbalah. It's psychology in Kabbalah, I should say. And the chapter I'm dealing with tonight is chapter 48, which is simply called Pattern. So let's get into the reading here, okay? Thank you for being here. So we begin the work of psychology and Kabbalah. We're pretty much a few more chapters of the book is to be finished here. A very enlightened book, very good book actually. Phil Langdon recommended this book to me, and so I've been reading it. He also recommended this particular book here also. This was called Pattern. Faith is a pattern of development. It is set at birth. It is based upon karma, which is, in turn, borne by the other incarnations through which the individual has passed. So in other words, what he's saying simply is that you're here again based upon all the other incarnations you've had before. Or it may be your first time. But what this chapter is going to be dealing with what they call pattern of it. So this is going to be based upon people who have been here more than one time. This chain of embodiments follows a distinct line called, quote, destiny, end quote, which is concerned with the purpose of that particular human entity and its place in existence. So again, he's revealing again simply as people are here, or they've been here before. They don't really, some may not even know why they're here yet, this purpose, but it is basically, that's why you exist. This is a purpose of God's way of revealing not only his mercy and his goodness, but also for you to bring about what I call in your life eventually what they call ascension, or some would say salvation. Thus, the individual and their environment have a specific relation to one another. No one is born at a random time or place. That's correct. No one happenstance comes here. It's already, in some ways, part of it. Before you come here, you know that you're coming here, so to speak. Your spirit does. Free will, however, allows personal modification, and so an individual may progress or regress from life to life, or even remain for a period in stagnation until the cosmic flow moves them on. Each fate, according to esoteric tradition, is designed to give the maximum opportunity for growth as it passes through the various physical and psychological stages of development. So, one thing I wanted to share about simply is that the astrological signs that are taking place in our lives are given to basically what we're supposed to learn when we're here, this particular incarnation. This gives many possible combinations of situations because no two people are at the same stage of evolution. Some, for instance, will find themselves well placed and others apparently disadvantaged. The cripple with deep insight, the beach boy with no brains, the striking, beautiful, poor girl with great intelligence, and a privileged aristocrat with none or no accidents. Everyone is exactly where they should be in order to meet just the right circumstances and people to help them correct imbalances and move on in their journey of destiny. As said, each one of us is shown the general outline of our lives just before birth. This memory is usually lost to consciousness shortly after we are born. But some people retain a trace of it that may be recalled when they're encountering a person or place they are sure they have been here before, although they have not known not where. Dreams sometimes grant access to this inner program, and sometimes we are shown what is ahead in premonitionary glimpses. This pattern buried within our unconsciousness But this is all based upon what we call unconscious, because we're not conscious of it. You see, and I think it's also to point out the unconscious is what we call, in a way, feminine, and the consciousness is the masculine. It's not unlike interior birth chart for it. For it decides the general configuration and path for a particular life. Some psychologists would agree or argue that this is a rigid, preordained pattern, but the Kabbalah sees it as somewhere in between the poles of fixity and total freedom. Take, for example, the clever farm boy. You may see life as an imprisoning drudgery into into which he was fated to be born. That is, to live and die, or he may regard it as a challenge to be met and overcome. Many laborers have remained where they were and have died in the house where they were born, having learned little or nothing, whereas others on the same farm have risen to the situation to become their own masters in more ways than one. Some have even left their croft, that is, to make their way. I would think that word is not croft. I want to say craft. I'm thinking it might be a misspelling. Have left their craft to make their way in the wider world, to become publishers or presidents of nations. Here we see a pattern that is not fixed but flexible enough to accommodate development. It is not the form that is inflexible, but the principles. What is what is ordained is not that this or that particular is to be acted out, but that certain situations are needed to stimulate the right response, so that the farm boy may learn about tendencies and practicality, which he might not have acquired in the family of an Oxford Don. The timid girl who has avoided life by living on a legacy will eventually have to learn how to fend for herself when it is gone. But she could shorten and ease the lesson if she went out and met the problem the problem while she is still ahead financially. What might be said is that faith is designed to bring the person to a consciousness of the very thing they may have avoided in their last life. This may be, for example, the very opposite to hard circumstances like those born into situations of wealth, power, and glamour. They may have to learn about the problems of temptation, corruption, and responsibility, and the consequences of using and misusing such things. Good fortune and bad fortune are not always what they seem. The pattern has many convolutions and reverse dimensions, as well as a broad and dominant lines. Figure 49 simply says possibilities. Most vegetable people are content to meet their material and social needs. Over many lives, they acquire much experience that leads them to want more than security. Animal people wish to develop, but they are driven by limited ambitions that curtail their possibility of inner growth. Human beings, that is, having passed through these lower stages, seek to evolve beyond the everyday world. They use their body and psyche skillfully so as to avoid dead ends and exploit opportunities. The result is flashes of vision and possibility of self-realization, leading to fulfillment. Carl Jung recognized many of these principles spoken of above, and no doubt took them into account in his work with adolescents. His idea on synchronicity, that is, quote, meaningful coincidence and their origins, end quote, come very close to the esoteric understanding of omens. The notion that a significant incident may be a hint about the future is an ancient one. The principle is that because the self has access to the world of Yazara, the psyche can become conscious of an approaching event by recognizing the signs of the unfolding pattern. These may be in the form of selective projections, which draws the attention to something that symbolizes what is to happen, such as the falling down of a favorite tree signifying the end of an epoch. Or one may dream about a certain town to which one must go in order to meet a particular person. Such precognitions are not uncommon, nor is it a phenomenon called déjà vu, in which people experience something as having happened before. Psychologists write these incidents off as brain malfunctions, which some may be, but nevertheless quite a number are not so easily dismissed. Many incidents have the quality of just being familiar, either because it is already in the unconscious from the prenatal period or because of some coincidental event, like the man in the midst of a breakdown who discovers that his house has had a massive structure fall. Such synchronicities, and Jung put great store by them, are the work of providence or the work of creation, which is responsible for the organization and unfoldments of the universe. A parallel, a parallel can be seen in the critical path, analyzes technique used by builders who have to plan just when to bring in each component so that everything comes together at the right time and place. Nature uses the same process each year as does the embryo during the gestation sequence. The dynamic comes from Baral, the the format from Yazara, and the manifestation occurs in the serial. Now, while precognition, dreams, and omens can be seen as emanating from providence or the self, which sees the situation objectively, it does not mean that the hint has to be taken. We always have the options of choice, which means that our fate can be altered. However, this event is quite rare because it is only possible to change the the fatal flow, I should say, by a conscious effort. And most of us work from habit and repeat the old and ordained pattern until we learn our lesson. Take, for example, the woman who decided not to marry because it was too difficult and messy. She will still have to face her animus in some situation or be confronted by her dreams in which the masculine will demand attention. Faith does not mean that one will marry a particular person, but that we repeat our lesson with that type of individual as the psyche projects it needs upon the outer world and attracts the people required. It may not be our soul mate, as most of us are not ready for that yet. Those inclined to the right pillar, like the workaholic, will inevitably find themselves essentially busy in city or country, while those on the left column, such as the fearful man, will always be afraid no matter how well protected they may make themselves. Free will operates when one is liberated from the domination, I should say, of functional pillars and triads and acts from the self or temporal, or what we call the central column. Here, in a moment of insight, something can be done as consciousness illuminates and offers a solution. This alone can alter our fate. The masters have said, quote, live in the present, end quote, and not in the past or future, over which we have no power. In the normal sequence of development, all the phases described unfold in a general way so that the body and psyche pass through a form that is appropriate to each period until physical maturity and general kind of mental stability have been established, which most people take for adulthood. However, as observed, many individuals are not psychologically mature. Some remain essentially babies, their lives dominated by infantile desires, will while others still play juvenile games or retain the value of adolescence. The fate of each level is usually well monitored by various counterbalances to those discrepancies, giving all the possibilities of forwarding their development. In other words, you have the opportunity. It's your choice. In other words, the ball's in your hand. That's what he's saying here. And you can choose to go back, to be not to progress or not move forward. That's your choice. Okay. Um, that's part of free will. You want to, you know, be do something else with your life. That's up to you. But again, that is going to be your responsibility to do. You see, you can't blame God for that. You've been given opportunities, and sometimes those things come around many times. And you suddenly realize, I think I better take this one, so to speak. This begins the work of the Mariah world of creation that operates the larger pattern so that everyone can find their place in the universe. The Holy One is exceedingly merciful. Most people do not notice the extraordinary thought that has gone into their fate because repression, projection, and a dozen other defense mechanisms that prevent them seeing what is actually becoming or what is happening. One esoteric tradition calls this, quote, sleep, end quote, or katmu, K-A-T-N-U-T-T, the lesser state. Because of their problems, many consider themselves victims of circumstances, and they are right, but not in the way they see it. Their fate is the direct result of their own effort or lack of it. So, in other words, he's saying it's yours. You have been given opportunities again. You have free will. Others, more open to reality, look for what might be the cause of their difficulties and learn by trial and error to alter their pattern. Those who seek to grow will mature quickly each lifetime and become adults who see every event as a teacher. They accept life as it is and exploit every moment to gain the most from their situation. There are some, however, who look even deeper and inquire as to what the purpose of existence is. That's a good question. What is the purpose of being here? They are shown if they only heed the hints, the pattern underlying their own and other lives, so that they can begin to see the dim shape of the cosmic pattern in which everyone is involved. Sometimes the veil is drawn and they catch sight of a chain of lives as ancient memories return of older times, or other times, I should say, and places. This can lead them to the point where they recognize a distinct direction that indicates what their destiny might be. Here we stand on the edge of a quite different dimension. So that's the end of chapter 48 today. And let's see what we have here. Okay, so we're in at this point now. Again, this is Psychology and Kabbalah, chapter 48, called Pattern. And I appreciate you being here again. This process here. These are quite intriguing comments here in this particular book. And so, thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.